All right, I'm here with Miss Lexi. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yay! First of all, you're literally so genuine and kind, and just like you show up in your videos. So I love that. Also, I wanted to ask, is it
Thank
Pinnata?
you.
Your last name is
Pinnata. Yeah, my
Pinnata.
last name is
Okay.
Pinnata. Yeah, a lot of people pronounce it as Piñata. Honestly,
Yeah,
however you want to
I
pronounce
didn't
it
want to
is
do that.
totally fine.
Lovely, lovely. Yeah, you're genuine. You're so like friendly and kind, which is just like how you are on your videos, which is how we know
Thank
on
you.
TikTok.
Same
Um,
with you.
thank you. Thank you. Well, that's why we connected, baby. So, I love seeing your TikToks because you're so good at breaking things down for people when it comes to singing certain songs, singing in different ways, like different styles of singing, whether like mixing, belting, using your head voice and things like that. You're really good at breaking things down and bringing the singer along with you to see like this is possible for you, like you can sing this note, you can sing this song, here's how to do it. And so I love that you do it in that way. You really bring people along with you. So obviously you're a singer, so I would love to know, like, how did you become a singer so that you're to the point that you're now able to teach other people to sing? What was that journey for you?
I guess it was kind of all over the place. That's kind of why I like to really bring people along because I feel like for so long it's been kind of gate kept a little bit. Everything is kind of like, oh, if you're not eat, sleep, breathing, and if you haven't done this since the time that you could walk, then like there's no point. It's just all this crazy stuff. And I was like, I grew up in New York, and I think I was surrounded by people who were very serious about it. And I was, always surrounded by the arts, which was great. It was amazing, but I think that also led to a lot of scenarios of gatekeeping too. So it's definitely a fine line to walk when you're being introduced to the arts. So I guess my approach is just like I just want people to see everything. I'm like, you're, like this is how it is. It's really not that complicated. It's not rocket science. Anyone can do it as long as you are passionate about it in some capacity. But I guess the way that I found my way into it was, my mom put me into this like community theater, so that's kind of how I started performing. And then once I got to middle school and high school, we had an amazing drama program. So I started doing shows there. And then in high school, I started getting really into choir and a cappella too. So I had like four classes that were music, but I still just didn't think that I was. That I had the passion or that I was, like I said, eat, sleep, breathing, or I didn't, have that spark when I was really, really young. It was just something that I liked to do, and I didn't think that I would have the ability to be able to do it professionally or for a career. I was going between all different career paths. Like when it came time for
Mm,
college and everything, I
right.
wasn't, I had no clue. Could have been anything. My friends were joking. One day I'd want to be like an accountant. The next day I'd want to be like a dentist. The next day, like it was just bizarre. Like I had no idea what I wanted to do, even though I was taking a bunch of music classes. And then eventually I was just like, okay, my teacher sat me down. He was kind of like my choir director kind of sat me down and was like, if you do music education, then you have the ability, you're able to do multiple different things. Like you're not closing the door on other things. Like if you don't do music though, and if you don't get your teaching degree, then it would kind of close the door a little bit. It would be harder, obviously, down the line because it's a certification kind of thing. So I think that was my mindset going into college. Still was not sold on the whole music as a career thing, which is crazy to think about now because it's in my entire life. But when I was going through that process, I think the music degree and music teaching just
Yeah,
was like, okay, I would have like a certification. If I wanted to go
right.
into like business or go into whatever, something else that doesn't need like an actual certification, then whatever. But I was like, okay, I'd come out, I'd have a certification, I'd have job security, all the things. And then after that, I could kind of figure out what I wanted to do. And then sophomore year, I had a moment where I was like, okay, I miss performing and I really want to get back to it. Like I love teaching too, I
Hmm.
love it. That's why I chose this path is because I love teaching. But I miss performing a lot. And I had a moment where we brought in someone, Joshua Henry, who is an alumni of the University of Miami, where I went to school, and we did a performance, and that changed the whole game for me. Because
Wow.
when I performed with him, we did like a little duet moment, and he was so into it. Like he was
Yeah.
so into it. And I was like, oh, like if I do like performing, then I'll get to be around people like this who are
Yeah.
living and like really invested in this. And I just like, it clicked for me that sophomore year. I was like, oh my gosh, like, yes, this is it. This is what I need to do. And then I could teach later. You know, it was never like a bye-bye teaching. It was kind of just like a let's put it on the back burner for a little bit. I'll still get my degree and finish things out and everything. And then I sorry, this is a long story. I'm
Ah,
like I've
you're
been talking
good.
for
You're
so long.
good.
Yeah, and then
Going.
I was just like, you know, rush applying to all these different like summer theaters and summer stock and everything because I kind of had some people that were giving me advice and tips. They were like, do summer stock, like start with that. That's a good place to kind of get some credits and all these things. And I ended up getting a job at this theater in Michigan. It took a lot of work though. It was a lot of work to apply and everything and to just really convince myself like I had no college theater credits. I had nothing. I was literally just a vocal music education student. And even on that, even on some applications, it was like, you must be a theater major and all this stuff. And I was like, whatever. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
submit it anyway. And
Yeah.
I just borderline harassed some of these places. And then they like when people show interest. I'm not
Yeah.
recommending to harass, but definitely show significant interest that is different than maybe most people would. I created a video for some of them that were like interested in me about like why specifically I wanted to work at that theater and why, you know, I was so inspired by what they do and everything. And it worked. And my boss in Michigan said that's why I got the job. I worked there for 3 summers. Filled up my resume. We did 8 shows a summer and I had the time of my life. And it was the most work I probably ever did in my life. And I told myself, like, if I loved this, then that means that that this is what I should do. And that kind of solidified, like, okay, I'm going to go to New York. I'm going to audition and do the thing. My last summer at, my last summer in Michigan, I decided to go on some auditions. I knew that this was it. Like I had already graduated already from college that previous spring, and we were right near Chicago. So I went to my first professional audition for a cruise line and I ended up getting it, which is crazy.
Yay.
I had no idea what cruise line it was. It was brand new at the time, and I had to play guitar, and I've never played for people in my life. And I was like, this would just be good audition experience. And then I got a phone call from them when I was at work, when I was working the box office, saying like, "Hey, can you be in Orlando in like 2 weeks?" And I was like, yeah, sure, okay." And I just like packed up all my stuff, drove back to New York, flew from New York to Florida, and yeah, and then and then everything else is the rest is history. But I guess the teaching and private teaching kind of came up somewhere in COVID. So somewhere in that mess, COVID was when I decided to start my online teaching studio and kind of took a break from that when I went on the ships. And then when I came back from the ships about a year ago is when I finally put my all into teaching online and teaching one-on-one, which is where my passions and my heart lie. And I'm so grateful to have like two things that I'm really passionate about. Because performing is a tough, tricky world. And it's really fortunate for me to love teaching just as much. So, yeah, that's my long-winded story of me, everything.
Oh, I love it. I love hearing these stories. Like people love hearing these stories because it's a good way for us to like see ourselves and like, oh, okay, like she also didn't get, a theater degree like an undergrad, neither did I. Like I didn't get a BFA either.
Hmm.
Or okay, she did a cruise ship, like did performed on a cruise ship and like, oh, I never even thought about doing that, right? So you might have given someone an idea that they hadn't thought of before, right? So the story
Right.
is so good. Like it's so important for us to I think it's important for us to hear stories of artists and to hear how artists have become where they how they've come to be where they are now, even if like you're still in the middle of your journey, like you're still early on in your journey in your studio and everything, but like so important for people to hear that because a lot of the listeners here in this community are like beginning again and like they are like, well, I haven't been to an audition yet. So like it's so inspiring to hear that maybe I don't have to have an undergraduate degree in theater to go to an audition, right? So it's so
Not at
good to hear
all.
these stories. Yeah, and to know what's possible. And so I love that you talk about putting yourself out there and like really making yourself like stand out from everyone by being yourself and showing your enthusiasm, your excitement, and your interest in those auditions and in the submissions for those theaters. When you work with singers who are wanting to start putting themselves out there, maybe if you've worked with any singers who are like, okay, like I want to go for this audition or I want to look up auditions and I'm not really sure if I'm going to get this, like, or I'm not really sure when I if I want to go to this open mic night, like I don't really know how it's gonna go. What do you tell singers about like just like showing up as themselves and like being able to being able to distinguish themselves when they are submitting auditions, when they are applying for open mic nights and things like that, or wanting to do outreach to put themselves out there? Do you feel like you have any advice for those singers?
Yeah, I think especially for singers coming out of maybe programs or coming out of, from other teachers or something or from school,
Yeah,
we're in this mindset of like, it has to be perfect and we get graded and all these things and we're already our worst critics. So it's really hard to come from that.
yeah,
And this might be kind of controversial, but I would say quantity over quality because what is quality? Like our what we might think is like or maybe it doesn't have to be like your worst. Like if you really bomb
yeah,
it, you don't have to send that to anybody. But like if it's something that you're like, okay, like I could have done better, but like this is, this I've done 3 takes and this is what I have and I have the material on tape and it's me and I'm authentic, then send it. Like
mhm,
send the thing. I even when it comes to like building a voice studio and I'm getting coached a lot with that, it's kind of similar in singing where you just have to like take messy action. Like
yeah,
that's what I've learned. Like I can't like even just posting on social media too, like I just have to post. Like just
yeah,
do it. Who cares? And it's actually blown my mind. Like it's blown my mind like seeing which videos do better than others. I'm like, this one's been sitting in my drafts. I've been too nervous to post it. I don't have anything else, and I just really have to put it up right now. Otherwise, like, there's not going to be a video today. So messy action. That's what I would say. Messy action and quantity over quality, especially when you're just starting out, because you're going to learn so much just from doing. You're not going to learn anything from thinking about things. Like, you're just not. You're only going to learn from doing and submitting and getting yourself on tape and putting yourself in front of the right people if you're able to. Like that's the only way that you're going to get anywhere. And then once you start to put yourself out there, you're going to get feedback and you're going to see like, oh, okay, these are the roles now that I can, really start going for. These are the styles that I can, focus on because I'm getting called in for this. And then you could be like, okay, well, maybe I'll adjust this and do this. And then when you start to get, you'll get feedback down the line. But when you're first starting out, like just send it. It's gonna feel like you're just sending it into the void, but just send it into the void. Like no one cares. Like casting directors see too many videos to be like to pick apart people, right? Like they want you to do well. People in an open mic want you to do well.
mhm.
Everyone wants you to do well. No one's gonna pick apart your performance. It's just the fact of showing up. Like just show up, get your name out there. That's the most important part when you're first starting out.
Yeah, that's so good. Thank you for sharing that and backing it up even more. So like if they're not ready, maybe they are starting to perform. Okay, maybe not backing it up, but maybe they are starting to perform, right? So they're starting to go for auditions and or you're a singer listening to this, maybe you are thinking about going to an audition, right? You're ready to, okay, I'm gonna show up like Lexi said, like I'm just gonna put myself out there. So then when they go to work on songs, like or when you work with a student and you're working on a piece, and you're just starting it, right? You're just starting to work on it. What are like some of the first 2 to 3 things that you could recommend, like for singers, if you're, maybe they're just coming back to singing again, or they're still pretty new at singing, but they want to work on this song for this audition? What are like the first maybe 2 or 3 things to think about, or 1 or 2 things to think about when it comes to vocal technique and developing their voices so that they can, start to work on this song with confidence?
That's a great question. Yeah, I always think vowels. Vowels to me
Mhm.
are everything.
We're getting
Literally,
practical. I love it.
it
Yeah.
always goes back to vowels. I mean, first and foremost, obviously, like we want to tell a story, especially if you're a musical theater performer. Like
Mhm.
that is the first and foremost. Like I could sit here and talk about vocal technique all the time, but like, yeah, you know what? I take it back. First thing is definitely like the story. We need to go to the story first. No one cares. I mean, people obviously care about your technique, obviously, but first and foremost, you have to tell the story. That's going to make the difference between getting the callback or not and getting brought into the room and being able to show your authentic self. So that comes first. Second is vowels, though. Vowels is everything. Vowels can help you with your breath support. Vowels can help you with your mix. Vowels can help you with your belt. Vowels, 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 vowels. Everything, because we sound great. We do great. We're chilling when we're doing our exercises and everything. It's because they're on open vowels, and then when we get to our songs, we get so bogged down by the words and the consonants and everything. I always tell my students people pay for the vowels, not the consonants. And you could, if even if you just think about it, like at the end of, I don't know, Funny Girl, like don't rain on my pa, re, it's on
Yeah.
a nice open no one is given standing ovations for the R that she said in the parade, Everyone is standing up and clapping for the that she's holding out at the end. Vowels. Vowels.
So good. Oh my gosh. That was such a good breakdown of like why vowels are important, like for singers. And it's really like that's how you hear yourself singing. That's how people hear your singing, your voice is through the vowels. Like most consonants aren't sung through consonants, they're like fricatives where you can like kind of hear like a sound on the on the consonant, but like other than that, it's vowels. That's how you hear sound. That's how you hear your tone and everything. So it's such an interesting response. Like I never heard that before. Like that being like one of the first things to focus on, but it's so true.
Yeah, and it's also one of the easiest to focus on because I think then
Yeah.
we could really like I don't know, I have some students and I'm like this too, where we like to think of things very logically and they're like, "Oh, how do I like get my breath like this or how do I make my mix stronger at the top?" It's like I don't like teaching in terms of like think about like lifting and flying and like like and forward, I think it's easier. Oh, just modify from an ah to an ah, like brighten
Mm,
your vowel. Like that's one of
right.
the one of the most straightforward things that I could say to a student is
Yeah.
vowels.
And that helps
So,
with the forward placement anyway, right? Because you're that modification that you just said, that actually helps you with the forward placement. Like it helps with other things that would maybe be more confusing to just say,
mhm.
okay, change the vowel. So that's something, and I think it's something that singers can work on, like even outside of lessons, like listen to yourself sing and think about, okay, how can I change the way that I'm saying this in a way that's gonna help my voice? So can I open up on this note, on this higher note? Can I open up my vowel somehow and change it somehow? And like I that's so great. It helps singers become more, it helps singers become smarter singers, like that are like being really thoughtful about the way that they use their voices. So sorry, we're getting into pretty
I know,
technical.
forgetting like vocal technique. Yeah, and I also like me too. Like I want to continue to learn more about the
Yeah.
voice too. Always. Yeah, I think in the next few months I'm going to be taking a pedagogy class. So always, we're always learning more
Yeah,
techniques. So.
for sure, for sure. And yeah, to your point also about the story, I love that you mentioned that. And I think even for like non-musical theater singers, although I also mostly work with musical theater singers and I myself love singing musical theater, but even
Mhm.
for non-musical theater, like every song tells a story. Everyone who wrote every song had a story behind the song, even if it's not an obvious story. Like you as a singer, it's your job to know what that story is for you, even if you're not playing a character. You can be singing a pop song or an R&B song or a rock song, and you know what you're singing about and you carry that story through. So yeah, I love that you mentioned that part about story. That's really cool.
That's what it's all about. That's why
Yeah.
we do what we do.
Okay. Yeah. So in addition to like working with singers on the technical aspects of the song, the audition, prepping for the audition, one thing we talk about a lot on this show is confidence and building confidence in who you are as a performer, as a singer, as a creative artist. And that you can address that in a lot of different ways of like confidence in your skill, right? And your skill set, technical aspects of singing and performing, but also just like emotionally, the confidence that you need, mentally, the confidence of like putting yourself on stage and things like that. What are some of the biggest challenges that you see with students and singers and performers, or just your own personal experience when it comes to lacking confidence? And what does that look like, and how do you kind of handle that?
Yeah, I mean, I got some really good advice from my college professor when I was doing my senior recital. It was a full hour long show. And even for me, like who had been performing like in studio class and stuff a lot, and now I had to give an hour long show. And my teacher like sat me down and she was basically like, this is not about you. You need to take the focus off of you. The focus is them. The focus should be them. You are giving them something. This is almost like a form of community service. Like you are producing a service for these people pretty much that you're singing for. And yeah, so I guess just taking the focus off of you, that like we're doing something that's, this might be woo woo, but that is so much greater than ourselves, you know? This is just such a like bigger art form than even just one person, than even just our little tiny nuanced like up this vowel or up this or and there's so many cultures too around the world where it's like one version of singing is so awful compared to the other one. You know, like if you sung
Mhm.
opera in certain parts of the world, they'd be like, "What is this? What are you doing?" You know? But meanwhile, it's like the most pristine and prestigious like way of singing. My teacher also told me this too. Like she's awesome. Um, Dr. Stephanie Moore, shout out. But she was telling me all this stuff that really, really helped. And I think I passed that along to students in terms of confidence. It's like it's not about you. This is about something much greater, and you need to put yourself in their shoes. Like what do they need that day? Maybe somebody really needs this. And do you think they care about like the little nuances and the vowels and this? And yes, we want good vowels, but like it's okay if it's not perfect. Like I said, it's about the messy action, and it's about just showing up, because majority of people don't do that. Majority of people do not do that. I almost was one of those people who just couldn't, handle that stress of performing and everything, and lacking the confidence. But just the fact that you're there and the fact that you showed up, you're already like, I don't know. I always hate when people give all these crazy statistics of like, oh, it's so rare. It's like one in a million are on Broadway. But it's like, how many people are actually trying to be on Broadway? Like, how many people actually like put the effort in, like
Mhm.
show up and put themselves out there? You know, so it's like the chances are actually higher than we think. It's still hard, still a very saturated industry, but it's like, like just showing up is half the battle, honestly.
Yeah.
So,
That's
yeah.
so good. I love that. It's an attitude of empathy of like, yes, like, you might not have like all this training yet or all this practice yet, and you might not have like the best technique yet or all these things that you think that you need to have to perform and to share your gifts, to even post a video of you singing online or anything like that. But if you think about who might be on the other side of that video or who might be on the other side of that performance, and how you can bless them, impact them, inspire them, encourage them, um, like make them laugh, that empathy can help you to push past that fear, and even to like take that courageous step of like, even though I don't feel super confident, I can still take courageous action and messy action, put myself out there, and you will build confidence over time as you continually put yourself out there. And so I love that. That's such a good point. And what you said last, like about the statistics and like the odds and everything. I think that's so interesting. For you as a performer, what like do you feel like, well, because you're a performer and now you're voice teaching full time. So for artists who maybe are wanting to, okay, like they have started singing, they've started putting themselves out there a little bit, they've built confidence. Um, and maybe they're really wanting to take this even more seriously. Maybe they're wanting to do this as a side hobby or like a side hustle, a creative outlet on the side that they really want to be intentional about, but they want to do it professionally and they want to do it maybe even full time. What are like some of the biggest like blocks that you came up against when it came to like, oh, am I actually going to be a performer? Or like, oh, am I actually going to be a voice teacher? Like to be in the arts industry and like actually do this, because that's something that artists struggle with, even if they're not doing it professionally per se, but like just the idea of like, what will people think? What will people say? Like, I might not even get this thing that I'm wanting to get, this role that I'm wanting to audition for or whatever. It just feels like there are so many odds that might be against artists at times. So, what are some of those odds that you thought about maybe when you were considering this career? And what changed your mind or helped you to move past that so that you could give it your all?
Yeah, I feel like the industry has changed so much since COVID and even a little bit before COVID too.
Mm-hmm.
Where I just think that there was this old school mentality of like, oh, you're gonna be a struggling artist and this is just how it's gonna be, and like these are the things you gotta do, and you gotta wake up and do this and wake up this early and you gotta like do X, Y, and Z. And I just think that it's not applicable anymore at all. I think there's so many different ways that you can be involved in the industry and submitting yourself for projects and stuff, and also being able to work jobs that actually sustain you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just getting out of that like old school mindset of here are the things that come along with doing this, it's like no, like you can have it all, I guess. Like that would be the advice that I would give to performers. It's like you don't have to commit yourself to a life of, you know, being broke and waking up at the crack of dawn, and like now everything is online. There's a lot of online submissions. There's a lot of work that can be done online too, which has significantly changed the lives of actors. We no longer have to give our like days to waiting in line in auditions when we are able to, for the most part, send videos and stuff. I mean, I maybe go in person like once a week I'll do an in-person audition, and I still consider myself a like professional performer. Like I'm still considering myself as,
Mm-hmm.
you know, pursuing this, even though I'm not like giving up my entire life and being
Right.
to it. I still am able to be like, okay, like I think I was nervous too about being that performer that was like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like, are you really committed to this? But I actually think that it only helps. Like, by having a career that sustains me financially, I'm able to take those good voice lessons. I'm able to buy those good LaDuca shoe boots that everyone needs for auditions. I'm able to spend money on those good headshots. It's like we need money to do things. And it is quite literally impossible unless you're very fortunate and you have help from outside forces. It's impossible to fully commit yourself to being an auditioning performer. So don't beat yourself up about how involved you're able to be. If you're able to be involved in any capacity, you are an aspiring auditioning performer. Like you don't even have to post on social media. You don't have to, you could send them directly to projects. Like there's no such thing as like you could have it all basically. You can pick and choose your own journey and how involved you
Mhm.
want to be in this profession.
Yeah, I love that pick and choose. Like there are options, and do what works best for you. And I love that you talk about mindset and like not carrying on this old mindset, but like letting go of the old mindset of what does it look to be an actor or an artist or a performer, a creative, a singer, but make it work for you and your life. And I think that you've done that so beautifully and you're helping people do that on TikTok, on social media. How has building that been helpful for you as an artist and a performer and a singer and a voice teacher? How has like putting yourself out there on social media been helpful just as we wrap up here?
Oh yeah, I feel like it's been game changing, honestly. And everyone kind of likes to overlook social media and especially influencers. It's like, oh, they're just an influencer. Oh, they just post like silly little singing videos. But it's like, if you look around, everyone on planet Earth right now is on their phone on social media. So you know what? That's where the world is. So that's where I'm gonna be, and I think that's kind of what it came down to is like that is now the best place to showcase yourself, to put yourself out there, to grow a business, which is what I've been able to do. And I'm so glad that I've been able to kind of build a base and a following. And it's really helped with my confidence, not only as a performer, but also as a teacher, and
Mm.
to be able to hear feedback from people because social media definitely gives you feedback about a lot of things, and some good, some bad, but a lot I've gotten a lot of good feedback from people in terms of, the tips that I give and what's been helping them.
Yeah.
And that's where everyone is. That's where everything is. And I think if we continue to look past that, then we're not going to really see what an incredible resource it is. Good and bad. Obviously, it comes with everything. And if it's too much for you, I totally understand that too. But in terms of putting yourself out there, it is the biggest stage in the world now for performing is social media and TikTok and Instagram, which is weird to think about, but it's true.
Yeah. Well, I love your TikTok. I think you give such great tips and advice and helpful thoughts for singers and performers. So everyone should go follow you. Can you let everyone know where they can connect with you online? And also, like, if there's anything fun happening at the studio that you'd love people to know about and like to get signed up for, anything like that, so that they can work with you.
Oh yeah, of course. So you could find me at the Smart Singer Studio on TikTok and also Instagram at the Smart Singer. I just put out a course for beginner singers, beginner vocal technique. So that's been exciting, and also some fun memberships that are coming up. So be sure to follow along with that.
Fun. Everyone get connected with Lexi so she can help you with your vowels and also just like inspire you and give you more tips and stuff on her Instagram and TikTok because you have really good information. So I just love helping, just like highlighting other artists and other, creatives, musicians who are doing the things so that people can see that this is possible and that people can go and support and work with them as well. So I'm so excited that you were able to chat with me today.
Thanks for having me, and you're doing
Yeah.
amazing work too. So I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot my very last question that I always ask is if you had one like phrase, one word of advice for the singer, the actor, the performer, the creative who's listening to this and maybe just like really is struggling, needs a little bit of encouragement with their like creative journey and starting their creative journey and yeah, being a performer, like what's one last word of advice that you could give them just like to hold in their hearts?
I would just say messy action. Just do it. Just do it. Just do the thing.
Yes, messy action. Take messy action. I love it. So good. Thank you so much. This has been amazing. I can't wait for everyone to hear this.
Thank you.
Thank you so, so much for listening to today's episode and to this show. I'm so in awe of you for being here and showing up for your creative gifts. That takes courage. Don't forget to join the performing arts community on Facebook for support and inspiration as you continue on your journey. If this episode helped or inspired you in any way, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and share it with someone. It means so, so much. Thank you again, and don't forget to keep singing, acting, dancing, performing, and living creatively. Talk to you next time.